Hi, everyone. Welcome to season, the Fireside Chat with Black Cyber OGs. I want to take this time to say thank you for attending. Thank you to the panelists for attending as well. I'm Najla Lindsay, a forensic scientist, researcher, and consultant. And I am here today to get with you and allow you to see what these panelists have to say. I just have a few housekeeping rules. So with this panel, everyone who is attending has volunteered on their own accord to attend. No exchange of gifts or services has happened. They all know that this is a labor of love and that this is something that they signed up to do. I have a livelihood to protect as well as they have a livelihood to protect. So with that being said, I want to make sure that if you are here, you understand that these are their opinions and views and thoughts, and they do not reflect myself or my business, Lindsay Forensic Security Consulting, LLC. These thoughts, opinions, and views that you hear today are from them and their experiences alone. So understand that. In addition, I'm not sure if there's some media people here, but if there is, I ask wholeheartedly that you reach out to the panelists if you want to record anything that they have said here. I think it's respectful, and I think that, you know, we have a livelihood to protect, and I don't want anyone to have their livelihood jeopardized because of what they have said and being used without their permission. So without further ado, we are going to start here, and we are going to start with Talya Parker. Talya, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then you can popcorn to anyone that you would like to popcorn to.
After Deloitte, I spent about a year working with Nike, where I built out a data privacy program at Converse. And then now I am at Georgia Tech University as a cybersecurity architect, where I am doing some GRC work and working with AWS Cloud security solutions. Popcorn to Shanikqua.
Hi, Shanikqua Tucker. 14 years just about in the cybersecurity field, doing everything from SOC analyst work, pulling cables, managed security services, 12-year Army veteran in the Washington, D.C. area. I currently work for Splunk in sales, supporting the Army. So that's kind of my territory. But I'm here to enjoy conversation and good people. So I'm gonna popcorn it over to Isiah Jones.
Thank you. Isiah Jones, spent the past 16 years in cyber. First 10 years were on the IT side, traditional like data integrity, system design. Kind of started out with a summer job with a medical clinic in 2004. And then 2005, I took a Navy civil service job where I stayed for 7.5 years, you know, as a GS employee. Did everything from system design, big enterprise applications like SAP, to information assurance and forensics and incident handling. Host-based security stuff. And then I kind of resigned from that, became a contractor, moved here to DC probably almost 8 years ago. Bounced around a few other agencies, crossed over into industrial control systems about 6 years ago. And that's kind of where I focused ever since, bouncing around the world. I've been both federal and some federal regulatory agencies as a DS-15 and National Security Office. Currently on a contract with an agency I won't mention because they get on my damn nerves sometimes. But let's see, I'm on some international standards committees for safety and security for control systems for water and wastewater. Let's see, masters in Homeland Security, focused on information security and forensics, bachelor's in information science and technology, focused on systems integration. And that's kind of me in a nutshell. I'm sure we'll get into the war stories. And I'll pass it over to Dr. Laura Jones.
All right, thank you, Isiah. Hello, everybody. I'm Laura Jones, newly minted PhD, so about a week now and a couple of days. Thank you. And so my background is military. I have 21 years active duty service. After I retired from the Army, I went to become a consultant with Booz Allen Hamilton for about 10 years and did the Beltway of DC, so a lot of DOD work, Army work, Pentagon, lots of agencies there, Treasury, Homeland Security, you name it. So after that, I moved to Atlanta about 6 years ago, and went over to Kimberly-Clark and set up their IT risk management program, and then went over to a first-year publicly traded company and set up their governance, risk, and compliance program. You hear the term GRC, that's governance, risk, and compliance. And then as well, now I work for Hearst. It's a conglomerate, about 360 companies, magazine, newspapers, televisions, and so forth. So yeah, I'm glad to share my experience with you. I've been in this field for about a decade and a half. And so I'm looking forward to speaking with everyone. And I will popcorn it over to, let's see, Davin.
And congratulations once again. My name is Davin Jackson. I am a penetration tester. I've been in the game now about 15, 16 years, started from the very bottom doing like help desk IT work, working like Circuit City, doing their tech support and PC repair, and gradually moved on up. Started getting into pen testing maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. Started with doing vulnerability assessments and wanted to kind of grow and build from that. So I've been doing pen testing ever since. Started off doing network pen testing for like a consulting company. Moved on to doing web app pen testing for different banks and government agencies. Worked for financial institutions. I currently work for, wait, it says my mic is low. Can hold on. It says my mic is low. All right, so yeah, so can you guys hear me?
That's better.
Okay. Yeah, so where did I leave off? Oh yes, I work for different financial institutions, and now I currently work for another financial company. But I also work on Alpha Cybersecurity, which is my blog and website where I do different things where it's helping people get started in cybersecurity, as well as doing training videos or capture the flag exercises and walkthroughs and trying to get into like a more mentoring role. And that's pretty much where I'm at now. So I will pass it over to O'Shea.
Oh, I was on mute. Thanks, Devin. Hi everyone. O'Shea Bowens, currently located in Boston. Background primarily around cyber defense and blue teaming. Got into security and hacking around like 13, 14 years old, like 6th grade. Kind of never stopped from there. Primarily, I focus pretty much on the incident response side, security analytics, security architecture. I guess what we call threat hunting now, but back in the day, we would just call it proactive security. Outside of those areas, I run training exercises. I love trying to get back as much as possible. So a lot of my time is around either mentoring or developing training programs. I started a company called Null Hat Security. So that was kind of the nexus of like bringing all these things together that I truly love. So through Null Hat, I get the opportunity to work with different clients and do a bunch of fun stuff. Yeah, truly love it. And I will popcorn.
B is last but not least.
Okay. I saw that too.
Hi, so I'm B. I've been active in security context since I started in tech, and mostly from the engineering side early on. So application security a lot. I've transitioned, let's see here, into a lot of cloud security standards and compliance platforms in recent years, including a lot of community-focused work on relating to awareness and the intersection or equivalence of security work and diversity, equity, and inclusion work. So these days, I am effectively let's see here, a complex systems engineer, working with other experts across a number of fields to look at security in an integrated way. And we want to have the cybersecurity, the physical security, the psychological security, and let that be reflected in operations and processes around the world as part of a response to kind of our deep global pandemic threat, which is systemic oppression. So hi everyone, and I don't know if there's anyone else to popcorn.
No, it's popcorn back to me, actually. So yes, thank you for all of your intros. So we're going to get right into it. We're not going to play any games today. So the very first question is, what is your current views, thoughts, opinions about the cybersecurity industry as it relates to Black people? And we'll, do the popcorn method. And I want everyone to actually answer this. And I will start, I'm going to start with B.
Okay, well, I'll be first this time. Fine then. So the short answer for me is Wakanda. Just that we have, we have historically unprecedented access to scalable, integrated means to address and teach the world about models that relate to security, models that relate to, I guess what we call opportunities or threats. And I think given the social implications of Blackness, these, few hundred years especially, we're in a place to be more aware of some of the broad implications of threats, community-wise, individually, even psychologically, which get to the heart of what security is about. Because in a lot of the math that I'm working on, a lot of the integrated approaches, I'll keep the rest of this short, we end up modeling psychological safety in lots of different spaces as the goal of, for example, application security, and the analogs with physical security, and like, why do we protect systems to protect people? And so I feel that Blackness and Black experience allows us to take a different lived experience and allow us to address and recognize vectors that others might not, and allow us to speak from that lived experience to inform our modeling in ways that the rest of the world kind of demonstrates that they haven't functionally addressed. So I'll popcorn it over to Shanikqua.
So my answer is a little bit twofold. I think we've come a long way. I think when I first started in 2008, I was probably the only Black person on the watch floor working at our cyber, and the rest were all active duty soldiers. Now, I feel like we're in a place where Black people are in positions of leadership. They can make hiring decisions. They have groups that they're leading, and they can bring in other people. So I don't know. I think it's come to a point where, of course, we have a long way to go. But I think right now we're at a place where we can teach, we can grow all of our skills and show other people how to get in the door a lot easier than we could maybe 10 years ago. I think some people don't even realize their power. I know I didn't until about 5 years ago, realizing that people are actually looking up to me. I can actually bring people into my teams. I can actually lead these teams as a Black woman. So I don't know, if we just look outside of our own little circle, our little bubble, we can see how much power we really do have. But I mean, history definitely is in the back of our minds. So without me getting too deep on that, I'm gonna popcorn it over to Isiah Jones. Isiah.
You're on mute, Isiah. Hey.
My bad, my signal's. Yeah, I'm getting like delayed feedback, so my bad. So I agree with Shanikqua, except, I think we've come a long way. 16 years ago, I was like the youngest person in the room all the time. Actually, I will take that back. Even when I was GS15 at FERC, like a few years back, I was still the youngest person in the room, and probably the only Black GS15 out of 35 in that whole damn building. And so we've come a long way, but when it comes to those senior leadership roles, I still don't think we're where I want to see us. So, we'll get managers and directors, but I don't see any of the Fortune 100s hiring those of us that are qualified to be CTOs or chief security officers or the CEO. We still have problems getting on the board of directors. In the industrial world where I'm at, yeah, good luck with that. The other thing I think we need to be more global. Now that we have more of us, this panel is awesome to see. Last week's panel was awesome to see. So those of us that have been around 15 plus years, I think we need to start looking globally across the diaspora. So the work that I've done trying to connect with folks in Africa and the islands and over in Europe, I think that needs to be where we go next. And I agree with Shanikqua, like, we've already kicked the door in. People that came before us kicked the door in. Let's help the younger ones kick the door off the hinges and keep going. But I think we should celebrate how far we've come, but I don't think we have time to be sleeping right now.
Can I add one comment too? I think the key word is empowerment.
My 2 cents. Now,
Your service, Isiah. He froze.
oh, civil service? Yeah, thank you. Likewise, all the veterans on.
So can I just interject just for 1 second? I think the key to it is empowerment. I think a lot of us don't really know, like I said, the power that we have, and just knowing how to tell people that are younger than us trying to break into this field, like, be empowered. You don't have to humble yourself every time. If you're smart, say you're smart in the room. You can have the right answers. You don't have to hush yourself. You don't have to, keep your head down just because you're Black. I don't think a lot of people really understand that coming into this field. Like, you can be unapologetically you after a certain point that you get to once you have your skills in your backpack, but just, empowerment. I think that's the key to it all.
Isiah, did you have some more or you're good? I think he's on delay.
No, so I had a delayed connection response. No, I'm good. I agree 100%.
Popcorn it to, let's go with Dr. Jones. Let's go with Laura.
Okay, thank you. And please call me Laura.
Got it.
Fine. Okay, thank you. So I agree with what's been said so far. I think that we're making great strides in cybersecurity, information technology, and just the advancements where we're going at globally. We're there, but not enough of us are there. And I'm personally very concerned about that. It's okay for us to kind of be the only ones in the room from the perspective of we can hold our own. But it kind of isn't okay if we continue to be the only ones in the room, because I feel that our voice is missing, our perspective is missing, and where diversity and inclusion are concerned, we absolutely need to have our perspectives at the table, especially when we look at things like artificial intelligence, right? So we have to be sure that when these sorts of technologies and these security features are being developed, that we're adding our perspective. If everyone in the room is the same, then maybe these data points on these facial recognition technologies, for example, will exclude others because there's not necessarily that sort of awareness or that reason to think any differently. So we have to get in there. So what needs to happen then, in my opinion, and research is showing as well, that we do need to create a pipeline. We're losing Black people in the cybersecurity fields and technology fields simply because one of the reasons is sort of that loneliness factor. Our students in college, it's hard when you don't have people sort of in your discipline to maybe study with. And I've met women in the same position as well as Black people and others who want to have someone that can kind of partner with them and understand. And sometimes when you don't have that, you tend to kind of fall by the wayside and maybe gravitate to another discipline, business, or what have you. Nothing wrong with those areas at all. But we need to have that retention in this area so that we can help grow in the way that the world is going. And I have lots of thoughts about it, but the last thing I'll say is that I love cybersecurity and technology, information technology. Personally, I love it, but I also love it for people of color, Black people, because those are fields that are well paid for good reason, right? And so I always say that there then is the opportunity to change the way the branches on your family tree grows. And so I love the idea that we have an opportunity to help shape the world, but also help change a lot of the lineage and which, you know, has been not necessarily on par with other sort of races or ethnicities in the world. And so there's that opportunity to do that through being in cybersecurity. And I'll popcorn it over to O'Shea.
Thanks. No, I totally agree with everything you just said. So if you know me, I speak in buckets. So my thoughts are kind of weird. I say buckets. So I break my answers like essentially in two different buckets, right? It's around openness and the like and entrance, right? So from the openness side, I look at, you know, like I've been doing this since I said like, you know, 13, 14 years old, was going to 2,600 meetups, kind of like on EFNet and all that stuff when I was super kind of young. And I really kind of bought into like the hacker manifesto of, you know, hey, we're all from different creeds, different religions, but, you know, we come together as one. But in reality, a lot, especially in like an actual workplace example, like that's not the case, right? Like that hacker manifesto kind of dies by the wayside because you likely are one of the few Black people that are actually in the room. So what does that really mean for the community? So when I say the openness side, what I've seen from, you know, a lot of the traveling I've done across the world, speaking engagements, things like that, I see that there is a door that is open for more of us to come through, but it's this really, really small funnel, right? So how do we actually widen that up? I mean, so essentially, how do we get some TNT and blow that apart so more people are coming through the door? I think it's more events like this, more volunteer time, but also expressing to more of the younger individuals. I'm 37, so, you know, I throw myself in the old man category. But I am a big advocate of telling like younger individuals like, hey, you need to look at these CTFs. You need to look at some of the stuff HackerOne is doing. The openness and the entrance there is almost free. The only time what it takes is knowledge and the ability to like sit there and retain and actually study for some of this, right? So the ability to kind of move as a high schooler and start winning some of these competitions, like that's totally there and that exists. And I try to push that message to more of the younger individuals I run across. The entrance side of things is I view cybersecurity as a whole economic power in and of its own, right? Like if you think about the majority of the exports that the United States actually has, it's around technology. So what are the top fields in technology? You know, yes, there's AI, there's MI that's coming up, but cybersecurity is becoming an ecosystem of its own. So I kind of like have this.
We lost them.
I was gonna say, is it just my connection again?
No, I think it's his.
I thought it was good. Okay, but I was saying, like, you know, there is this ability to like put more of us in this kind of economic empowerment situation by becoming more experts in cyber and moving up that ladder and getting into leadership roles. You know, so that's the way I view it. I think we're still at the advent stage where we're scratching the surface and more of us are coming in. So you know, I would do my best to keep pushing to get more of us into this.
Popcorn to, you have Davin and you have Talya. O'Shea. Think I'll do it for him. Talya, you're up.
Yes, so I absolutely agree with all of you. I think I'm a little bit more focused on the challenge side of things, because when I think about my journey, I didn't see anyone who looked like me. When you put this together, I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. It was so many Black people, Black women especially. I couldn't believe it. And so I'm on LinkedIn trying to request everyone because I just didn't see it. At Deloitte, I didn't see it within my teams. I didn't see it on the client side. And I didn't know, I went through most of my career very timid because I didn't want to come off too, you know, I didn't want to.
No, say the word, because they need to hear that that's something that we come across as, and it's not necessarily true.
Yeah,
so say it.
I didn't want to come across as the angry Black woman. And there was one occasion where I tried to speak up for myself. And I ended up being kind of, what's the word? I was punished for it, basically, by the way I was treated. And then I kind of just shrank from that moment. It wasn't until maybe 2 years ago where I started to just really own my power and, really took those as learning moments, but my feelings was really hurt. And I felt like, okay, let me just do my job and just stay quiet. So I feel like because of there's a lack of diversity in the field, even when you do get the job, there's a confidence piece, which kind of prevents you from being able to step up or get the mentorship and the sponsorships that you need to elevate and grow in your career. And so that has been the biggest challenge, is being one of the few Black people that made it into the space and not having the right support to confidently continue to grow and reach higher aspirations. It's like, okay, let me just not get in any trouble and piss nobody off. So, so I think that has been one of the biggest challenges that I see.
And Davin?
All right, so I agree with pretty much everything everybody had to say. I think I'm in a unique position because I actually just kind of went through this like a month and a half ago, where I wanted to step away. So I think the challenge is 2 or 3-fold. I'm gonna try to keep it short. So the first challenge, like everybody said, is trying to tote that company line, whatever that bullshit is, right? So you try to go in, you try to code switch, you try to not come off too aggressive because you don't want to be the angry Black person. You don't want to be the angry Black man or woman. You don't want to feel like, make people feel like they feel threatened or challenged by whatever. And you tend to accept certain things that honestly you shouldn't accept, right? And what happens is you lose your voice, you lose your power, you lose your strength and all of that. And then like Talya said, I had a situation where I called somebody out on it a few weeks ago, and it was basically like a retaliation towards me. All of a sudden I got like a horrible review because I spoke up. So for a lot of people of color in that position, men, women, it discourages them from speaking up or even wanting to continue in the field, because it's like, I'm not going to sit back and let this run me. I'm not going to let someone have this power over me. So to that point, we need to be unapologetic. We need to be confident, and we need to remember who the hell we are. Everybody on this panel, everybody in this room who's done it, or who's in it, you're here for a reason. You put in that work, you read all those books, you sacrifice time away from friends and family. Don't let no one take that from you, right? So that's the first part, right? I don't give a damn who it is. You know what? We also have to remember that we're in a very unique position where, yes, we got COVID and the job market is a little tough right now because things are closing, but this ain't gonna be the last job. This isn't gonna be the last position that you ever get. So don't ever feel like you need to sit back just because you might lose your job. If something is wrong, speak up. That's part of the problem that we have as a people in cybersecurity and as a people in general. That's the first challenge of it, is that we need to be firm in where we stand. The second thing is, I came up from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Technology wasn't something that was the popular thing. It was street shit, or it was whatever else. And you were always kind of told in a way that you weren't smart enough. I'm looking at a panel of people, and right now, I don't know, we're almost at 100 people now. I'm here to say that you are. Even if you haven't stepped foot in tech yet, you are. Like I said, it's gonna take time, it's gonna take sacrifice, but you are enough. And there are people who have knocked the door down or opened the door. We need to hold the door, knock that bitch off the hinges, and bring in as many people as possible. Because until we have enough people to come in, we won't be able to sit at them tables. Or the thing I'm on now is, if you won't let me at the table, I'm gonna build my own damn table. But if I'm gonna build my own table, I'm gonna make sure the chairs that are built are gonna be for people who I know can do the job, that look just like me. So we need to be the big homie in the situation and uplift the younger folks who come in and say, listen, you know what? You don't only have one or two options to be successful. Cybersecurity is a multi-billion-dollar field. They're paying salaries, ridiculous amounts right now for entry level. Get them down, get them to sit down, open up the book, sit with them sometimes, mentor. Like these are things that we need to do, because we need to make it, we need to show that, we need to show them that there are people who look like them that can do these things. Because like I said, when I was younger, it was either you were Indian, you were Asian, you were Caucasian. I didn't see anybody that looked like me. And when I tried to get in, I used to try to tell people to come in and do it with me. They were like, man, I'm not smart enough. No, we need to break that stereotype, and we need to break that and get people to get in. And if, like I said, maybe then and only then will they take us seriously. Or if they don't, we have enough of us to do our own. I hope that answered your question.
It did. That's your viewpoint. It's nothing that I can say that can change it. I want to talk to the military professionals, specifically Laura, Isiah, and Shanikqua. Now, I know we'll have some people that are current, and then there are some people that are veterans, and they're all seeking to transition to, cybersecurity, or, they're in it and they're about to exit the military, right? So they are going to civilian life maybe. Do you all have any tips or suggestions to them as they're currently doing this, like where they are now and what may be helpful to have them successfully transition? I'm gonna go to Laura first, and then we'll go Shanikqua, then Isiah.
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Najla. Sometimes I really call myself the pivot pro, because of my background and the way just everything has stacked and built one on the other. I always say no experience is wasted, no training, no education. At some point, it all works together. So get it how you can, get it as much as you can. I'm a true believer in it. It helps. And to that point, one of the things I would say, even before you transition, go ahead and get your certs together. Whatever field you're interested in, whatever specialty you're interested in, go ahead and get those certifications, get your professional certificates. All of that's gonna make a difference. That's one thing I learned early on when I was a management consultant. You can have one discipline, one area of expertise, but that may not always be needed. So you're gonna need to be able to pivot and move over here to be able to stay gainfully employed. And not only that, but again, all of that experience and training will come together and help you. You'll be able to build on that. The other thing that I would say is get some help with your resume. Get some help, because we have in the military what we call the military mind, and we use our military mind all day long, and it becomes very ingrained. A lot of times you can see people walk down the street and you're like, oh, they're military. It's just the military mindset. And so we get into that vein and we think that when we're preparing a resume, that's gonna translate well to the civilian sector. And a lot of times it doesn't. So please get some help with it so that you can translate all of those good skills that these employers are looking for. You have those soft skills, you have those hard skills, and make sure that the language translates while you are getting these certifications, while you are working on some of these hot areas, because chances are what you've done already is probably going to translate very, very well. And a lot of hiring VPs, talent acquisitions, hiring managers, they really do want military people, because they know you have that dedication, they know you have that training, they know that you've been successful, and you have that level of loyalty that they're looking for. Nobody wants that attrition where people are leaving every year, every couple of years. They know you know how to stick and stay. So get some help with it, translate your experiences, and make sure, you know, that you show up well on paper before you can even get in the door. That would be my advice.
This is Shanikqua. So I want to piggyback off of that as well. I think a good resume, a strong resume, and a strong story. I think kind of what you've done in the military and where you want to be in the civilian side makes a huge difference. I think a lot of people get out and only see one side of cybersecurity and think, oh, well, I can't hack computers, so I can't do it. But there's a million different routes to take. I think breaking down what your job is in the military, no matter what it is, you can leverage your leadership skills that you've gained. You could leverage, you know, all of the, you know, activities and missions that you've been on to kind of translate that over. But I mean, for breaking into the civilian side from the military, I think for me, people see how you hold yourself, how you carry yourself. And as long as you stay confident in who you are and you understand what it is that the job is, I think people are willing to hire military. There's a lot of certification tracks out here. Companies are basically giving away training to military, either, you know, just got out or currently in. For me personally, I was able to build skills on the civilian side and get jobs in cybersecurity without a degree. I didn't get my degree until 2 years ago. So understanding kind of how to self-study, how to, you know, be a never-ending learner. I read books for fun. A lot of people don't do that anymore. I research everything, pick people's brains, find sponsors and mentors at every job you go to. But for military, I think for me, just make sure that you're always learning and on top of your game. I mean, that's all you can do at this point. Isiah?
Yeah, I echo that. You know, I was on the civil service side of it, but for both civil service and uniform, I echo what Dr. Jones and what Shanikqua just said. The thing that I'll add to that is network. We have a massive network. Everyone that's a DoD alumni, I call it Dragnet for a reason. Even when I tried to escape DoD, I got sucked back on a contract during COVID. So if it wasn't for that prior experience, I probably wouldn't have a job right now and I wouldn't have any contracts. So networking is huge. I don't think people realize that, especially as Black people. We're in more places than we realize. So, you know, you can get help with your resume, you can get help with degrees and certifications, but don't forget how to network with folks. And it doesn't have to be awkward. I get questions from random people around the world every day, and I just answer it because I'm not losing anything from it, right? So help each other connect. If you don't know the answer or you're not in the right position, but you know someone who is, introduce people to each other. I do that all the time. I have guys in different parts of the military, special forces, intelligence agencies. They'll be like, hey, do you know someone does X? Yeah, I know this person. And I just do the intros and I move on and let them do their thing. I don't think we do that enough. That's powerful. That's what helped me get in a lot of places, especially when it comes to, I think we have questions later about allies. They don't always have to be Black, especially when you're DoD. There's some silent allies that won't say it publicly, but trust me, they're riders, and they will get you in the door. They also tell you who to watch out for. And I think as Black folks, we also need to start doing that for each other. So yeah, study, self-resilience, honor, courage, commitment, everything you learned, take that with you everywhere you go. That's kind of what I would have to say.
Nicely put. So I got a question about networking. And I know some people have a hard time with sustaining the connection once they make the initial connection. Yeah. So Isiah, since you mentioned it, what would be some tips for people when they make that initial connection and to sustain a relationship? Because some people find it very hard to sustain it, and they don't want to bother people and things like that. So what would be, give me 2 tips that you think is vital for helping people sustain that connection that they've made.
One, my personal opinion, or what has worked for me over the past decades, even before I got into cyber, don't make it extra formal and don't put too much pressure on yourself and that person. You both have lives, right? It can be a la carte. It can be as needed. It doesn't, and some people might be mad at me because I've always rejected those formalized, overbearing structured mentor programs. Like, dude, not everyone has time to fit in that schedule. If they're traveling, their life's freaking changing around. If you can do it, but you don't have to do it that way, right? So I would say if you have a question, ask the person. If they don't respond, ask the next person. You're gonna get people that are too busy. Ask them again. I think someone on the panel said that last week. I think it was it Tia? I love what she said. She's like, I'm busy. I'm not ignoring you. I'm like, yo, I'm the same freaking way. Or I already answered your question. You need to do your own research and then come back with more questions. So I think maintaining it could be, I have folks I haven't talked to in years, but they'll come back 5 years later and say, hey, remember that thing we talked about before? Guess what I'm doing today? And we'll have a catch-up conversation, and then we might not talk again for 5 years. I'm okay with that, and they should be too. You have your life. You got what you needed from me, or I got what I needed from you. So I think people try to put too much pressure on it has to be a certain way. It can be a la carte. In fact, it should be. You should have mentors from all different walks of lives, and they should be constantly changing. And you shouldn't try to make it too rigid. That's kind of the advice I would say.
Nice. Anyone else want to add to that? Davin?
Yeah.
Unmute quickly.
Yeah. So to piggyback off what Isiah was saying, yeah, it doesn't have to be one way. It doesn't have to be formal. However, I would say make the question a good one, because, we are all busy. I did a talk a couple months ago about how to ask for help online. For me, it's kind of like, don't ask something that don't ask me a question that I can find the answer on the first page of Google. Like, if I can find the answer on the first page of Google, then that means you can find the answer on the first page of Google. So I'm going to probably tell you to use Google, right? Another thing that I like to see when people reach out to me, they'll say, hey, they'll ask their question, give a quick background of what it is you're working on or what you've done so far, because I might want to go through the same steps. So tell me, hey, I did A, B, C, and D, and now I'm stuck here. Because again, our time is precious. We got stuff that's going on, whether it's companies, websites, our own personal lives. Let us, help us help you. Right? Don't contact me and ask me something that, like I said, is the first page on Google, and then I'm like, oh, well, have you tried this? Yeah, I tried that already. Have you tried this? Well, I tried that already. Well, then shit, what do you need me for? So, yeah, like I said, make the question meaningful, but also show your passion for it. Like, don't when you're writing your question, don't write it in a way where it's almost like you don't have interest in it. It's just like, hey, can you show me how to do SQL injection? Well, why? What are you working on? Is there a certification you're working on? What's your goal with it? Like, are you doing it for practice or career or nefarious reasons? I need to know before I decide I'm going to dedicate my time to show this to you. And that's it.
So I want to add too, I would say, a lot of people will say, like, it's good for you to do your research too, because one, the industry is so large, and that's one. Two, everybody is not technical, right? So your question may be for a technical person, but you're reaching out to somebody that's not necessarily heavily technical. So the sooner you get out the information to who you're reaching out, they can better tailor their answer to you. And then that doesn't leave you wondering, nobody answered me or anything like that. So a lot of times it's good to have some idea or research on what it is that you're seeking an answer to. Talya, I know you wanted to answer it, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, well, what has worked for me in my career, not even just for cybersecurity. Well, one, whenever I connect with someone, I always kind of know what my goal is. And based on whatever information they feed back to me, the next time I reach out to them, I'm going to have like an update of what I accomplished. And, here's what I'm thinking about. Do you think this is a good direction to go into? And so it really lays it out for them on how they can best help me. And two, everyone is a potential connection. Even when I think about my journey into consulting, my referral, the person who connected me was a friend who was a flight attendant. And I would have coffee with her like once a month whenever she was back in Atlanta. And I would always share my goals and, what I'm working on. And it turns out she had met a partner on one of her flights And she connected, and this was maybe like about a year and a half after I had been having coffee with her. And she said, hey, you know, I met someone and I want to connect you. And that was the same partner who expedited my process into the world of consulting. So, and she was just a flight attendant. So everyone is a potential connection. Just be genuine, be transparent. I'm very transparent because I don't want to waste their time. I don't want anybody wasting my time. And I want to make sure compatible for each other. I don't want to have to beat around the bush with what my needs are. So just be who you are when you're approaching, and yeah, just have a follow up with that. So that's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, and I wanted to add as well. So what Talya just said about being genuine, for me, that's really important. I personally value organic relationships and just genuine people. Not all of those relationships can be organic. Some of them, you know, are the mentor-mentee sort of relationships where you just kind of, you're asked to do that and you go ahead and you help people. And so I would say be genuine, but also be open to giving back. So don't let it be a thing where you're asking for something and you continue to ask and you continue to receive. No matter what level you're at, no matter who you are, there is always an opportunity for you to help someone because you have a network as well. And so what could you do? And you're knowing their goals as well. You come across people and you say, I remember that person told me they were working on X, Y, or Z. Maybe I can make the connection for them. So be willing to bridge the gap as you receive help as well. I think that's very key, is just to have a reciprocal kind of relationship.
That's definitely important. I'm glad that you spoke on that, Laura, because some people, you know, when they reach out to someone, like especially, you know, if they don't have that many years of experience, they want to know how to provide value. And I've been seeing that a lot lately about reaching out to people that have years of experience and trying to, you know, connect with them and maybe seek mentorship from them. And, you know, well, I'm, you know, young in the industry and don't have as many years of experience, but I'm interested in learning more what you do. So how can you provide value? So I'm glad that you touched on that, because I think that's very important to add some value to the person. It doesn't have to be anything astronomical, but hey, if you know somebody that, you know, does what the person may be looking for, you know, make the referral, make the connection. So that, I think that's very important. And B just mentioned about salary. So we all, you know, that's very big. We all know cybersecurity makes a lot of money. We've seen breaches. We saw the Twitter incident that happened recently. We've seen everything under the sun. SANS recently had a phishing email thing that went on. So a lot of breaching, the money is there. So B, since you brought it up, what's your advice on salary negotiations, and what has worked for you in that respect? Did you start out, you know, at a low salary, or did you like work and say, no, this is my absolute minimum and I'm not going lower than that, and this is what I'll accept? And how did you go forward from there?
Well, so first I'll say that I don't recommend my path for anybody, and that's mostly just for people's, you know, safety and well-being. So, but I'll just say that I don't see my choices as needing to be other people's choices. But when it comes to general recommendations that might be helpful, I would say ask for more. We collectively, especially as people of color, especially Black women, we tend to ask for less. And that's me sharing findings from lots of folks. And I've talked with lots of folks about this over the 20 some years or so. I've been asking questions about these things, and also negotiate. Learn to negotiate, practice negotiating, and do it every chance you get, and let it be a learning experience. We've had a number of people here talk about how, especially Laura has emphasized how none of the learning is wasted, or doesn't have to be wasted if you apply it. And many of us, as we touched on before, have been socialized to kind of be quiet or to shrink down. But when we don't negotiate, we leave life on the table. And so those are the general takeaways. Ask for more than you think. You can always negotiate down. but don't rush there, because there's somebody out there who is looking for you, who is not looking to lowball you, and has the resources to pay you more. And you can always go out and help people on a pro bono basis, or you can always go out and speak or create things for public consumption. You don't have to be everything for everyone. And then finally, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but ask for more. That's it.
You got, that was your reiteration, like ask for more, ask for more. O'Shea, what's your viewpoint on the whole salary and negotiating, and how did you do it?
Yeah, School of Hard Knocks. So I left school when I was 20, about to be 21, to join a startup. So I had to kind of learn how to fight for money at a very early age. I think likely before I could even buy alcohol. So at that point, there's trials and tribulations, especially when you're contracting with government agencies, right? The one thing that I've learned is yes, A, you should always ask for more, but B, you should be able to justify it. So if you come in and you want 20 to 30% more, you need to know the margins of the area for which you're asking that. So if you're working for a financial institution, understand the latest breaches from a finance perspective, understand the controls around that, and understand what you bring to the table. If it's around AWS, be able to break down the numbers around loose containers or default creds being held across EC2 instances. Be able to speak to why you're asking for that. And when you get to that minute detail of, I know it costs X amount of dollars to recover from this particular breach, from man hours, from consultancy hours, from dealing with the feds, all these different areas, and you believe you bring something added to the table, that is a killer move in my mind. Because I've hired, I do a lot of hiring, and I do a lot of negotiations for my company, but it's the people that can kind of lay it out in almost like a receipt. Like, this is what I give, this is what I'm bringing to it. This is how I came to that value. That is one of the best skills I think you can learn in negotiation, especially when you're younger, and learn to be okay with no. I've done that a bunch of times, and I had friends tell me I was a moron for walking away from jobs or whatnot. But it's I know they're paying more. It doesn't matter how I know, or someone told me, that doesn't matter. The fact is I know that it's paying more. So why would I accept less going into that? I wouldn't respect myself in the morning. So learn to be okay walking away from a job. It doesn't matter how good it is. If you're really that type of person where the money can make you feel, the money equates to more than how you feel about yourself, then that's a whole different issue, right? For me, the money isn't worth self-respect, and it's just not worth the amount of value I put in myself. So I'm willing to walk away from it.
Nice. I think people don't realize, and sometimes people are kind of in a situation where they can't really turn it down, right? They've probably been looking for a while. So sometimes they can't, but I think that if you're in that position where you can, I think it's okay to say no, because, someone asks, well, how do you know how to negotiate for your salary? Well, salary isn't the only thing you can negotiate, right? You can negotiate time off, your cell phone reimbursement, 401k matching. There's more things. So you got to think about the total compensation and not necessarily just the money, because the money's going to be there. But, if you're working 90 hours per week, what good is the money when you don't have no personal life, right? You can't be with your family.
Yeah,
go ahead, O'Shea.
That I think a lot of people kind of falls victim to is well, we're not at this rate right now, but we can be there next year. I fell for that when I was maybe 22 to 25. Don't fall for that, right? Because if they're giving you this, then you'll get to this next year. You should be asking really strict questions like, why isn't it that this year? Because that maybe turns into almost like an infinite no, a couple of years down the line.
So I did want to add something to that, Najla. That's a good point. I tell my friends too, and I actually have 3 major keys that I think about when I think about salary. So I don't want to be in the office 5 days a week. Every employer that's employed me, KPMG, Accenture, they all knew that. So that was built into my offer letter. I don't want to be in the office 9 to 5. That's not my thing. I can't work the best that way. So, however they calculate it in their minds, it can happen for anybody. Whatever makes you comfortable, whatever makes you your best you, do it. Include that in your salary. But also, I've met a lot of people that have compared what other industries make to cybersecurity, and those are the only kind of advice meters that they have. Cybersecurity is a completely different ballgame. You can ask for, literally whatever you think your worth is, and you can get it plus some. Some people will ask people in HR, what do you think I should get? You know, other fields that, you know, maybe don't see those type of heights, but know your worth. Like O'Shea said, understand what you can bring to the table and get paid for it. It's no problem going. I've taken a couple different jobs and stayed there 2 years because I knew I'm doing 3 people's jobs. You pay me this small amount and I know I can get more. I want to be promoted. I want that next step. If you're not willing to give it to me, I'm going to go somewhere that will. And that's just the way that it is in this field. So ask for more, get the bag, get the whole bag.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I actually had worked with someone last year and I had advised them to do that as well. They weren't in my company, but I had advised them to do that as well. And it doesn't necessarily have to happen when you're getting a new job or you're waiting on the promotion. You can ask for a market salary adjustment at any point if you feel like it's warranted. So if you've gone out and gotten additional degrees and certifications and you've shown your value to the company, you've really demonstrated that you're what they need and more, you can go ahead and have that conversation. It doesn't hurt to ask and do your research. Do your research though to understand what that position is worth and then what you bring to it as an individual with your credentials, and then understand where your salary should be reasonably. But go ahead and make the request and have the conversation. It doesn't have to happen just when you go to the next job. And it worked for that individual, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes we forget, like, you know, sometimes some people are really oblivious to things. And, you know, if you haven't had a conversation with, you know, your company, because sometimes you don't necessarily, like, let's just say you like actually really love your company, right? And you don't necessarily want to leave, but you want more money and you want more responsibilities. So sometimes it's good, I think, to also go in and have a genuine, honest conversation with your management, because they may not know that that's what you're looking for. Maybe you didn't communicate that. And so sometimes it's not necessarily all about leaving that particular job, but then sometimes it is. So you have to remember that as well when you're thinking about, okay, what's my next step? And sometimes companies haven't even thought about what that next step is. So then it could turn into you building something totally new for the company, where now you're making them revenue, you're adding tons of value to them. So don't just think that you have to leave. Sometimes it's best, sometimes you can just go in there and have the conversation. And if you do have a conversation and they're just like, no, you know, then, you know, you just leave. Like that's, it's nothing that can be done, honestly. And that's just it. Go ahead, Davin.
Oh, real quick. So a CEO once told me that there's no loyalty in technology. Great advice. It's because
he's right.
I'm looking at him like, well, damn. Okay. So he kind of set the tone. So, I mean, I think like a lot of us in the beginning, we were just happy to be here. So we took whatever was given to us. Right. And now it's a combination of things. You have to know your worth. You have to know your stuff to reinforce your worth. So knowing your stuff is, okay, do you have the education, you have the certifications or the degrees or whatever? Did you do your research on what the market value is for this, what the company's bringing in, or, you know, how big is the team? And you can use all of that to negotiate whatever it is you want. Sometimes, like I said, it doesn't always have to be about salary, you know, especially in the beginning, everybody wants to get the bag, and I fully am an advocate for #GetTheBag. But as you progress in your career, you'll realize that the bag is not the only goal. A work-life balance is a goal too, especially if you're working and you want to avoid that burnout. Benefits, equity in the company. Like Shanikqua said, how many days you want to come into the office. I literally put in my last negotiation that, listen, during the interview process, someone said, man, sometimes he get pulled in on the weekends. I got back and said, that's not happening. What was the movie? 5 Heartbeats, Big Red. My office hours are from 9 to 5. And you know, I come in early so I can leave early. I put in my time. You know, after the kids get out of school, don't call me. Don't text me, nothing. Unless it's burning, I don't need to know. I need to spend time with my son and my daughter. I've taken enough time away from them, and now this is their time or this is my time. So these are all things that you can negotiate in that process. But like I said, you have to know your stuff. Like the other misconception is, oh, well, I have my Security Plus and I saw online that I should be able to make $98,000 a year. That's not always the truth, right? How much time did you put in? Do you know it? And just because you have the certification doesn't mean that you actually understand the concepts. You can be paper certified. So that's why I said know your stuff to reinforce you knowing your worth.
So someone, hold on one second. Stephanie just asked about any tips on burnout. And I want to actually get Davin to ask, because if he wants to share, what have any of you experienced burnout? After you are done, Davin, how can you avoid it if you can? And what have you done to help yourself get out of the burnout stage? Because a lot of people suffer from burnout, and they don't necessarily may not know that they're suffering. But when you do realize it, what are some steps that you think could help people with that?
Step away from the keyboard. Like that's one of that. It's easier said than done because technology is more than just a 9 to 5. I mean, most of our lives are revolved around technology, whether it's social media or whatever. But this last time where I kind of had like a burnout or something similar, like it was burnout, imposter syndrome, everything. I usually tell people who I talk to or that I coach, you know, remember your why. So the first question I ask when someone tells me they want to get into cybersecurity is, why do you want to do it? And if it's just because you heard you can get the bag, that's not going to be enough when times get hard. When there will be those late nights, whether you're studying or troubleshooting or trying to figure something out, those weekends, especially when you're first starting out, the bag isn't going to be enough to get you through those tough times. So, you know, for me, it was, you know, like I said, my kids don't have to struggle how, you know, I struggled, or how people I know have struggled. I literally, moving into cybersecurity, like I literally changed my life and the trajectory of my kids' lives overnight. So you have to remember why you got into it, and it has to be a good damn reason. But that break is necessary. That, like, you can't just keep going. And that was a misconception when I first got in, because I didn't have someone to tell me, hey man, you going too hard, chill out, right? I talked about when I was going for the OSCP, how I was like, I gave myself this firm deadline of 3 months, and I worked from like, I got up at 6, I worked from like 7 to 3, 7 to 4, I'm in the labs till 2 in the morning, going to bed, getting up again at 6. And by the time I was actually taking the exam, my whole body was just like, nah, you're done. So you have to know when to stop before your body tells you to. And when your body starts giving you hints, pay attention. Like you'll know it, because no one knows your body better than you. So if you notice that, you know, you're less attentive, your focus is just off. You can sleep, but you're still tired. You hate going to work, even though your work is literally in the same house, because a lot of us might work remote. That might be the time to say, all right, you know what? Let me take a step back. Let me see if I could take some time off. Let me keep my screen time to a minimum, because if not, that's when it gets worse. And that's when it gets worse. And when you're at your lowest is when that imposter syndrome is going to hit the hardest. Because now when you know you're not being productive, but you're doing it for a reason, that's when that imposter syndrome is going to tell you, see, you're not like everybody else in this room. you don't belong here. So you got to remember who you are, why you're here, and that sometimes you just taking a break is stepping back is the best step ahead.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Talya.
Well, two things, and these are things that I learned while I was working with the Big Fours, right? I had to learn to start saying no. A lot of times when you want to come off as, you know, this amazing person and you're great at multitasking, you can do all these crazy things, you start saying yes, yes, yes to everyone. And one of the things I had to learn is I had to say no to some things. And then the second thing is block your calendar. So I have days where I schedule to have my meetings, and then I have days where I'm gonna crank it out and actually get to work. Because if I'm doing too much, I get really flustered. So I have to really organize my day. So no, I'm not gonna have meetings on a Friday. I do not like having meetings on Fridays. You got to get me Monday through Wednesdays so that I could just really crank it out and start fresh at the top of the week. So that's how I try to manage, my time to prevent burnout. So those are some tricks that works for me, and I wanted to throw it out there.
I have something to add as well about burnout. I think everybody has different levels of burnout. I think, Army hood, sometimes they teach you just have to keep doing it, even though it hurts. On the civilian side, though, I think I've been in school, I've worked, I've raised kids all while doing it. And sometimes it's just understanding what your priorities are. Some days school is a priority, some days my job is, but you know what your constants, and just like Davin said, take time for yourself, understand, what you need and what you don't need and what's worth it and not. The money is not always worth it, but this is why you need to work from home every day. So build that into your offer. But I don't know, it's just knowing yourself and knowing your body. But yeah, it's definitely important, especially in this field, because they'll burn you out if you let them.
So go ahead, Isiah.
I was going to say, I'll add to that. Every night I turn my phone off, to Davin and Shanikqua's point and Talya's point. I used to be the guy that was constantly sending emails in the middle of the damn night, especially when I was in certain national security positions. I didn't have to do that, but you're right. You're dedicated. You're trying to get the job done. You see there's a lot of mediocre mats that came up last week. They're sitting around just enjoying themselves. You're like, dude, we're trying to get stuff done. But no, I started teaching myself, watch Netflix, stop imposter syndrome. Don't feel bad that you didn't try to read some reverse engineering shit this weekend. Because I read for fun. Actually, I read for fun and to keep learning because I'm curious, or I just need to figure something out. But even with that, there's books that I probably should finish right now. I'm not gonna do that shit. I'm gonna watch a movie. I think that Jamie Foxx movie came out, but I'm laughing because it's taken me years and years to freaking get to that point where it's okay, I'm still hustling hard, but I don't need to keep proving it. The book's going to get read. I've read 1,000 other books. The earth's not going to end tomorrow. And if it does, then it wasn't meant to be. So you just have to teach yourself it's okay to take a break. It's okay to watch TV. It's okay to have some drinks. And the other thing I started doing is years ago, probably around 2012-ish, I made it my business other than this year because COVID sucks. Every year or every 18 months trying to hit a spot on my bucket list, right? So I've touched all 6 continents at least once. And every year I try to pick some place around my birthday or the holidays, hey, I want to go here. And I make myself go. Whether it's by myself, whether it's the date shift, make yourself go on vacation. Because that is something I still struggle with to this day. So that's kind of what I want to add. Turn your phone off at night, actually try to sleep. It's okay not to read over the weekends and study, and go on vacation, man. You have to go on vacation.
I definitely agree. Even though I'm very selfish. One, I love to vacation, right? And I know that. And I have this thing where, I feel if I'm not at work and I'm not in a managerial position, there's no reason you guys should be calling me while I'm not at work. That's just me. And I make it so that, when I'm with my colleagues, I train them so that they can figure this out on their own too. And on top of that, the company will be there because remember, if you quit, some people walk you out right away. And then others, they start treating you differently, or, you know, rushing you out, the company will always be there. So use your vacation days. You've definitely earned them. It's okay. It's okay. And if they make you feel bad, so what? You should take your vacation, because sometimes the companies don't have your best interests at heart. And you have to have your own best interests at heart in order to make sure that you're still going to be there to do what it is that your mission is, right? If your mission is to, you know, build generational wealth or get to that next level, you have to make sure you take care of you, because nobody else is going to take care of you. You want to make sure that you're there to take care of you. So use that vacation time. And as far as burnout, I experienced that and I had to shut it down. Like, I stopped studying for months at a time. I just would come home and just like do nothing for months at a time, because I just couldn't bring myself to keep studying or to keep, you know, just being involved. And you have to, I like to say, it's either by choice or by force, right? You either going to do it because you're choosing to do it, or something in the universe is going to force you to face that situation, right? And on top of that, the same situation will come around multiple times, just with different people. So you got to be mindful of that as well. So make sure you take care of yourself, because your mental health matters, you matter, and that's the only way you're going to get to whatever your end goal is. So that's my suggestion on burnout.
If you die tomorrow, they're going to have your job posted.
I was going to say that.
If you die tomorrow, they're going to have your job posted before they send the company-wide blast that you died.
Yep. An old time.
9 times out of 10, it's going to be before lunch.
Yep.
So yeah, you gotta take that time for yourself. And like I said, I learned that the hard way. If you guys want to have a conversation about the details, I'll be whatever, but just I don't want to do that now. But like I said, that to me, that was the major thing. Like when I went down the last time, it was just kind of like oh, okay, well, bye. You know, there was no concern, there was nothing. So it was just kind of like, wait, hold up. All right, you know what? I'm over here killing myself for these. And like I said, if I die tomorrow, they're gonna have my job posted by lunch. So you got to take that time for yourself, man. Like self-care is important. Like I said, especially as you get older, it's mandatory. And in the time of COVID, it's just amplified.
Correct. So I want to transition to, you know, not everyone is technical, right? So what do you think is like one of the what is your number one career advice or critical skill that everyone in security should have, no matter if you're technical or non-technical, you know, no matter whatever position you're in, that you think is very critical to being in the security field? And we're going to go to everybody, and you just popcorn from whomever. So I'm going to start with Talya.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't consider myself a very technical person. So, but one of the skills that I feel is the most important is relationship building and communication. Most of the time, you know, my job is spent trying to get information or translate information. So being a really good listener, and then being able to break down concepts in a way where it makes sense to the business. That's just really good communication skills. So, and then, you know, in regards to relationship, a lot of the times you're not aware of things because you're not in the know. But if you're really good at relationship building and getting people to trust you, you're more involved in the different activities that are taking place that you should be privy of. So those would be my top two: just being a people person and communication.
Nice.
Popcorn to B.
Okay, well, I guess I'll bring my job to work here, and I would say one of the most critical skill spaces to develop is, you know, checking your bias. I mean, not every workspace or group provides unconscious bias training or diversity, equity, and inclusion training. You don't have to wait for them. And, you know, for most essential things, sitting around and waiting for it, you know, probably not going to work out. So yeah, go, you know, if you haven't experienced it yet, it's kind of like therapy. you know, you might want to consider it just as a general thing. So maybe I'll put that right there as well. But yeah, check out some of the options for just at least being aware of what other people had to say about before and after diversity, equity, and inclusion training or unconscious bias training, and you might be sold.
Who are we popcorning to?
Yeah, so we're starting fresh popcorn. So I will, oh, that's right, I can't send it to you. All right, fine. I'll try Davin Jackson.
Yes, sir. I would say communication and documentation are two major things that you have to have in this field. Communication, especially from a pen testing standpoint, you have to be able to kind of communicate, you know, what the finding is, the impact on the company, you know, how much damage it can do. I've been in situations where I'm explaining the vulnerability findings to a group of C-level executives and they don't understand a damn thing that's coming out of my mouth. I'm literally telling them how they can, their company can be, you know, ruined from someone literally just pushing enter and executing something from Metasploit, and they're like, so what does that mean? So you have to be able to communicate it and essentially dumb it down. But you have to say it in a way that's effective for them to understand. And documentation, that's just for everything. You have to document everything you do. For most people, that's how we get paid, especially like if you're in the pen testing, bug hunting field. Proper documentation is what keeps you from having a duplicate or something that gets passed on or something that gets you paid. So you have to be able to document your stuff effectively. I typically write up my documentation or proof of concepts with the mindset that it's technical enough where the technical folks need to understand, but it's simple enough where I can hand it to someone who doesn't sit in front of a keyboard and they can literally look step by step and reproduce the steps that I made. And that's, to me, if I can hand it to someone else who I know isn't technical and they can copy my steps, then I know that it's been documented well enough. So those are definitely two points that I say for everybody is communication and documentation.
Let me jump in on this documentation bandwagon because I think that is so vital. In addition to, it's called CYA, which is cover your ass. You know, we oftentimes have to do that way more than our non-Black counterparts. And so the more that you document, don't think of it as, you know, it's an extra step in your work. Do it, think of it selfishly, because that's what I do. I write SOPs with the mindset that they better not call me on vacation. Like, I really want to enjoy my vacation. So I know that the more detail that I put in there, they will be able to figure it out. And if they can't figure it out, they have a number that they can call to get the support that they need, so that the next time that they have this happen and I'm not here, they know how to do it. So I think documentation is very, very important to any aspect of cybersecurity. You can never document too much, I don't think, personally. I could be biased, but I think that having that in there or being able to do that, it helps you to be able to communicate better. It helps you to get all of your full thought out. And you can communicate to, you know, in layman's terms as well. So you can take all that technical jargon and take it down to layman's terms, and it'll help you communicate whatever ideas or anything that you need to communicate to whomever you need to communicate to. So I am very big on documentation. I'm so glad Davin mentioned that. I don't know who you were going to popcorn to, but go ahead.
Well, I was going to say one last thing, like learn to love documentation. Like if you enjoy it, like I put that up the other day, I was like, unpopular opinion, I like writing pen test reports. For that same reason, it's CYA, but like I said, it also gives me an opportunity to show, look, oh yeah, he knows what he's talking about. So with that being said, I am going to popcorn to Shanikqua.
All right, so I have two. The first one is try to be the glue I've been called a hippie cult leader. I've been called, a Girl Scout leader. I've been called all types of things, trying to pull people together. But being the glue, I think, is important, because if you have the answers and someone else doesn't, or people know that they can come to you, you'll always try to be that mediator, I guess. That's a good skill to have, especially if you're trying to learn, because you understand people's requests and who they're requesting it to and for what reason, and you kind of learn it by proxy. Another thing is be a never-ending learner. A lot of people, I think, are lazy techies, or they come into this thinking that they're going to get it through osmosis. Be willing to read a lot, be willing to research on your own. I don't know, no one here is here to be like a recruiter. Everything should be done as a way to get you ahead. I mean, there's a lot of money on the table, so research the heck out of everything and learn everything. And that's it. Just be the glue and learn all the time. Yeah. I'm going to popcorn it over to Isiah.
Thank you. I would say, if I can only pick two, versatility and critical thinking, because all the other stuff I agree with already. And if you don't have versatility and critical thinking, at least in my life, the past 16 years, I don't like using the word jack of all trades, because it kind of had to Shanikqua's point and Davin and B's point and everyone else's point. I've had to master different things in that moment. So thinking through the problem, understanding the problem, explaining the problem, and realizing, hey, this doesn't actually solve the problem that you guys claim that you have. So being able to stop and critically think through what the actual issue is and how to solve it, and then being versatile enough to learn multiple disciplines and be interdisciplinary, especially in the world that I'm in now. The reason why I became successful crossing over from IT into ICS 6 years ago is because I leveraged my systems design background and project management and Lean Six Sigma and coding and regulations and standards, and I kind of was able to bring all that together. And to Davin's point, being able to explain to a CISO what a programmable logic controller is, what a pump does, because he's an IT guy, that's always a hard sell, right? But if you can explain to them how that impacts his revenue, impacts mission, impacts safety, impacts the environment, being able to speak multiple languages, you got to be versatile, especially in this field, whether you're technical, policy oriented, it doesn't really matter. I've had to do all those things. I've had to be all those things, especially like example when I was at FERC. I had to talk to SCSs and explain stuff to citizen secretaries and Senate staffers. I had to tell them, what is this thing they just saw on YouTube? What does that actually mean for the country? So versatility and critical thinking, I think, are two important skills. And now I'll popcorn to O'Shea.
Sure, thanks. So I'd say for my two, it's one's acceptance and from an acceptance perspective, something a little saying that I've had for like years and years is learn to be okay with temporary ignorance, right? No matter what area of security you're in, IT, really any profession, you weren't born with that like innate knowledge, right? Like you have to learn how to walk and how to chew and eat on your own. So learn to be okay just with not having an answer. I know a lot of times we're told, especially as Black people, you can't F up, but I don't consider, an F up to say, I don't know, give me a day to go back and take a look at it, right? I feel more comfortable doing that than giving a wrong answer and embarrassing myself. So learning to like just really be okay with that. Again, temporary is the key word, temporary ignorance. There's nothing wrong with that because you don't know what you don't know. Learn to be okay taking that time to go back, do your research, and come back with a strong answer. The second part of that is really the part of communications where you can, where you're thinking not only how do I win, but how do I become more flexible, especially in a corporate office, right? If you're like a pen tester, you're doing like bug bounties and stuff like that, it probably doesn't apply to you, right? But if you're in a position where you have to work with different peers, specifically peers from outside of technology, you need to learn how to communicate in a very flexible manner where your goal and your mission shouldn't be to overpower them with how smart and technical you are. Your goal is to really place them on the same page of how you guys come to a commonality to both win. When you start to think about that from the communications perspective, not just how can I win, how can this individual in marketing win, how can this dude in business development win, whoever it may be, I believe you become like much more successful in, especially in corporate America. I think too often us as like, especially people that are very technical, like I spend pretty much all my life doing technical, professional life doing technical things. You know, it almost becomes kind of habitual to say, you know, I know more than this person, or, you know, I'm stronger with this area of security than this other person. There's times where that matters and there's times that it doesn't, right? When it comes to your advancement in the workplace and accelerating your career, that won't get you there all the time, right? You have to learn how to communicate effectively and be flexible in your needs and what you're willing to concede to.
Nice. So I got a couple questions. Anyone experience bias in the workplace when it comes to your hair? I haven't personally, because I bring my authentic self to work. Davin's over here rubbing his low cut. As you can see, I also have a low cut, and I just did that a couple of weeks ago, but I just own it. Personally, I haven't experienced it, but I don't know if anyone else on the panel has. Shanikqua, you have?
Yes.
Okay.
For years, I permed my hair, thinking that's what Black women have to do in corporate America. For years, I went natural, and I had a low cut just like you. I swear everybody was like, what happened? Black power, way to go. And I'm like, I don't need you to help me on this journey. I'm good. But it's crazy. People think that they have to treat you a certain way because of your hairstyle. I have locks. People automatically think, oh, is it your religion? No, it's just because I like it. And some people don't know what to do with that. I mean, like you said, you have to be comfortable with yourself and embrace it and enjoy it. I sometimes go months without retwisting my hair, and my employer, I mean, I'm sure they have questions in their head, but I'm smart. I'm getting my job done. So nothing else matters. But I know it's difficult for a lot of people to try to step out of that box and be that comfortable. It's a bold move, but yeah.
So it hasn't impacted you like obtaining a job or, you know, advancing?
My name is Shanikqua. I have locks. It could be a million different things.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm sure it was a factor. I didn't know, but
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Shanikqua. I mean, people will say, oh, you cut your hair. Oh, your hair grew back. And I'm like, why are you worried about my freaking hair? I'm here to get the mission done. Like, you don't say that to those people. Like, what the hell you put my face for? So I agree with Shanikqua. As far as whether or not it impacted me getting a job or not, who the hell knows? I mean, we Black. There's a whole litany of things that probably impacted it. The hair might have just been one thing. I mean, I don't think no one's ever told me that, or I haven't figured that out. But you know, you never know. But I don't think it should be an issue at all. They shouldn't even be talking about it.
So I've actually had another Black woman that told me that it wasn't appropriate to wear braids, so like the client side and things like that. And so I would often wear my hair straight or get a lot of sew-ins, and sometimes we can be harsher towards ourselves, you know, with our own Black community. But yeah, you know, I'm not having that struggle anymore. Braids is usually my thing. I rock my braids. It's convenient. So hair isn't like a big thing for me anymore. I just show up. That's not going to be the thing that makes me feel any different in the workplace. But it is something I encountered earlier in my career, unfortunately.
Yep.
About that Black and
Just
white.
to piggyback off of that too, working at Big 4 companies or even big organizations, like Talya said, it's a lot of the same Black women in those organizations that want to be mentors and all that try to tell you this is what you need to do to get ahead. So I think it's ingrained from years and years of feeling like that was the only way to succeed. Now, I mean, it's different. You know, you have Black women, you know, with low haircuts, afros, whatever. It's just, you have to know your job now at this point. But yeah, we're always the hardest on ourselves, and it's very unfortunate.
So
yeah, that bothers me. That goes with hair and dress and everything else, and code switching. It's like, we need to stop freaking doing that. That's bullshit that I don't tolerate anymore. You know, and even with the ladies, when I it's not just me. When I see them asking about, you know, sister's hair, I'm like, the fuck are you talking about that for? Like, that's not even important. And you better not say that to her face. Like, people, why is this a conversation?
Yep.
And I say it's like that. I'm no sugarcoated anymore. It's like, how is this relevant to what we're here for? And I literally will say that in a meeting because people just like, why is that even a topic? You don't talk about anyone else except the Black person that just walked by. And hey, I'll make them feel uncomfortable because I'll make them critical thinking again. Why are you even worried about it?
Yep.
And when you go like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I know.
That doesn't matter as long as I'm getting my job done.
Yeah, I'm gonna say so. My brother, who's probably one of the hardest working men I know, and honestly, where I kind of get my work ethic from, he had dreads for years, and finally one day he just decided to cut them off. And he actually had someone in upper management tell him that, oh, you seem to be more professional now. And it was Locks. I'm sorry, Shanikqua. I'm sorry. And at the time he didn't say nothing, but then he waited till he got in the meeting when they started. I mean, it was almost like shortly after that conversation, the promotions that he damn near deserved years ago started just falling in. And once he got to that point, he said, let me ask you a question. He goes, so what stopped you guys from before? They're like, oh, we just really think you're an asset. He was like, so I haven't been an asset this whole time, and it's like, of course, they're not going to say what it was, but it's just highly coincidental that, you went from, you were at a manager and it kind of felt like you hit this glass ceiling to now all of a sudden you're a senior vice president and the only thing that's changed is the hair on your head. So, I don't know what their holdup is with hair. I don't say nothing when people come in looking like they got bird's nest on the top of their head. So why are you worried about what we doing?
That is true. That is true. Someone asked another question about ageism. They said, has ageism thoughts hit yet with the speed of technology and changing times? Has any of you experienced ageism by any chance?
Yes.
Maybe when you're younger.
Oh, B, yes. Wait. B has a yes. Yes, please share.
Yeah, well, there are a couple of them, I guess, but I mean, first off, one of the challenges in some of my I guess near experiences in C-levels of other people's companies has been kind of an age expectation. Hey, if I'm going to be a director or be part of a C-level or some other exec roles, is that there has been an unspoken and quietly acknowledged elsewhere expectation of age. Some of us got that experience earlier, but we're not seeing that there's an age requirement in the specification of the role. But we're seeing it on the back end, after we've met all the requirements to have an interview, and then someone doesn't actually communicate. Oh well, I had someone else. I had some other vision in mind for the role. Now, I mean that applies not just for ageism, but a lot of other things. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I have been helping family, to tap into more opportunities given their extensive experience. And I hear just there's so many aspects of barriers to entry for people who are older than some unspoken expectation for a role, and the net result is really exhausting.
Yeah, I agree. I've experienced that on both sides where, you'll have an older subject matter expert, like saying what I'm doing now. Some of the older engineers, they look like, oh, they can't learn this. I'm like, no, these dudes are pretty smart. That's where I learned most of my stuff from. But then there's the flip side of like, hey, you're kind of young. How do you know all this stuff? And I'm like, what the hell does my age have to do with that? So even, and I agree with B, the senior levels, it was already bad enough that I was like probably the only black person that was a 15 in that whole office or in half the building. But then when they figured out how old I was, their attitude changed towards me. The young people were super excited, right? And, all the quote woke people are like, oh, look, a young minority. Yeah, I'm not here to check your token box. But that's how they treat you. And then you have the other folks that are like, oh, you're too young to know what you know. Really? It's called life experience. But I still see that to this day sometimes, even on contracts that I'm on now, where when you talk about your experiences and you see, oh, it's 15, 16 years, they're like, wait, how old are you again? It's like, why does that matter? So, yeah, I still experience that now, especially when I think Davin or someone else said it, when they start feeling like you're more experienced or smarter than them, and you're Black, and you're younger than them, and, Black don't crack, so they try to figure out, you got a little bit of gray hair, but you don't look that old. Like, where are you at? I'm like, I'm in my mid-30s. Well, why the hell is that even relevant? Like, are we getting the job done or not? Stop wasting my damn time. But, that still happens. It's unfortunate. And I see it, like B said, I've seen it both ways. There's team members that I've recruited that are twice my age, and they'll follow me anywhere. But there's people like, hey, we should go get these younger people. I'm like, yeah, we need both. Him and her to train these younger people so we can build the next generation. I need both. Why do I have to pick one? And I've seen that. You try to fight that as best you can, but it's bias, right? It's either conscious or unconscious, but it's still there.
And that's
So
go ahead, Talya.
No, I can add to that, but for me, I think it's a little bit of ageism, sexism. It's just a whole. I just fall in a bucket of a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. So I think I did actually experience where an opportunity within our team opened up for me to step up, and the person that I report to told me no, and he said, "I'm trying to protect you." In my head, I'm thinking, try to protect me from what? what from learning? What is it? So that was his approach, and I knew what it was because I've been in this space for a while, so I know how to read, those kind of things. And I did go over his head and went to the other boss and say, hey, I see that you guys need help here. I have availability to learn and grow. Here's what I can contribute. So that's how I handled that, but that's because I'm more aware now of how to navigate those things. A few years ago, I wouldn't be confident enough to do that. So, you're not protecting me from anything that you're just projecting. That's what you're doing. But yeah, so that's my experience.
What he meant to say was, I'm trying to gatekeep you.
Yep.
Or like you're better than me, and I'm afraid you'll, get the spotlight.
Yep.
Or I just put it in the chat where it's kind of like you walk into a room and they're like, "Oh, you're not what we expected."
I want to add to that too about the ageism. So, like Talya said, I think Black women have it the hardest. I mean, yes, Black men, we understand, the struggle, but as a Black woman in tech who's comfortable with her Blackness, like, some people don't know how to handle that. So ageism, like I said, I love to learn. So if I walk into an interview, if I walk into a meeting, I'm fully prepared. And sometimes people aren't ready for that. They're not ready to hear someone opposing, their solution or whatever they brought to the table that does not look like them in any way, shape, or form. So I'm always not what they expected, but I'm smart, and as long as I'm bringing in people that are just like me, I mean, eventually we're going to take over. But like Talya said, it's hard, and they try to gatekeep you. They try to keep you from things, but if you can't eat with them, you have to make your own table, like Davin said, and take over the world. So,
Shanikqua, I 100% agree. So like, whether when I've been in positions to do interviews and hire people, and I've met great folks, whether they were women or older, I always had to fight with everyone else on the damn panel on why I voted yes. So from having been the guy who's done the interviewing, I 100% agree with what you just said. Because they'll try to make a bunch of bullshit excuses, and I'm cursing for a reason so that some of the people understand that this actually happens, and it pisses me off that I got to argue, this person was actually qualified, but you want me to vote yes for this moron who's not even going to do what I need him to do?
Or they could be friends with the people at the table, and that could be their only reasoning. Like, I feel like it's twofold. Like, it's crazy.
Oh, it is. And I was a VP at a startup with some folks that are pretty famous in the ICS community. And I used to argue about stuff like that. Or even at FERC, when we had our little stupid spreadsheet on voting yes or no on someone. And I noticed a pattern. I'm like, why didn't you pick this person? Oh, well, they're more qualified than them. Why the hell did you vote yes on them? And they're looking at him like, oh, you're just being difficult. No, I'm being real. I thought we were trying to find the best qualified freaking person. For me, I don't care if you're a purple Martian. If you can do the job and support the mission, and I like you, and you are, like Davin said, you're dedicated and passionate, and I know I can say, hey, we need you to do this. You like doing that, right? Good. I'm going to stay out your way. Go do that. That's how I operate. But I don't know what it is. Fear, ignorance, all the above, projecting.
You know what it is. You know what it is. You know what it is.
We all know what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like can you or can't you do the damn job? That should be the question, right?
I think they're scared that we can do the job and they don't want somebody that's dark skinned or that's black or that's got different hairstyle, that's a certain age, coming in there and showing their ass up. That's what they scared of.
That part, right? You know what I'm saying? But it's like, can you do the job? Should be the only question. I don't, like you said, it could be. I don't care about the age, the race, whatever. And then the other thing is sometimes it makes you wonder, well, why the hell was I hired, right? I literally did that one time. We interviewed a guy and I'm like, listen, to me, he knew his stuff. We've been interviewing all week. To me, he's the best candidate to move to the next round. And everybody was pushing back and they had all this criteria. And I sat back, I said, so was that the criteria you used for me? Because if that's the criteria you used for me, then I probably shouldn't have made it to the next round either. So now what is it? Was it a sympathy hire? Is it something like a diversity candidate? Well, you know, and now you're making them uncomfortable, right? So sometimes, again, you got to call them out on their BS because you got to put a mirror up to them. And sometimes you have to make, even if they do it and they feel like they're doing it out of duress or they're doing it because their hand is being forced, damn it, at the end of the day, is this person going to get the job done? So if I got to make you look like you're being bigoted in any type of way, yeah, you might not like me today, but you're going to thank me tomorrow when this person is the person that I thought they were.
Davin, I would add that it matters not only that a given person can do the job, but also that the team works on itself at every step. So that, for example, as the team grows, that the team grows in a way that learns and learns in the ways that recognize this space of exploit. Like we talk in a lot of security spaces about vulnerabilities and threat modeling, exploits, et cetera. I mean, that's the space that we're helping folks to step into when talking about systemic oppression, because these are threats and these are vulnerabilities and these are exploits that are, you know, in people's teams and processes and minds. And so when we look at the harm of it, we're looking at case studies of folks that have been hacked, basically, you know, in a social context, in a human context, and yes, it can't be really addressed without establishing metrics and being upfront about acknowledging bias, about the extent of bias, not just in the team, but in the world outside, and taking ownership on the choices that we have made, and taking ownership of a commitment to where we go, which has to be learning and has to be change, and some folks are going to have to retire.
That's true. I mean, it's kind of like what Laura said, and when she was talking about the AI, right? If there's nobody there who can speak to someone who has darker skin, bigger nose, bigger lips, locks, whatever, or certain hairstyles, how are we going to then make AI to the point where it's accurate, where it's not falsely? I mean, I think there was a case in, I think, Detroit, where they used that and someone was falsely accused. If they don't have people who look like us in these discussions, how is that ever going to work? I have my own conspiracy theories, but I'm gonna save that for another conversation.
and we can get there without assuming. It's one of those things where if we talk about being data driven a lot in tech and security, one of the most crucial pieces of data that we have are the stories, the lived experiences of people, especially people who have been impacted by overt and not so overt bias, harmful bias. And so when we're in this space, it's a deep opportunity. Like, we can apply all the techniques that we learn in our fields of expertise when it comes to security, when it comes to cybersecurity, information security, when it comes to all the things that we do to get those certs, but we apply them elsewhere, where of course they weren't going to design these courses to look at security in the broader context of where we have to head from now. And like you were saying, Davin, that whole question of of the headspace of being able to hear what we're actually doing, what they're actually doing, and how we can start to work together for real for the first time, because that's enabling. That's ultimately enabling for everybody, but not necessarily comfortable for anybody.
Agreed. So I'm gonna give y'all 2 more questions because I don't want to hold y'all. I know it's Saturday night, and I already have my red cup. I'm not gonna tell y'all what's in it. It's actually, I'm not gonna tell y'all, but we're gonna get through 2 more questions, and then I think most of the questions that the attendees have been answered. So I have 2 more questions, and you can answer them together, and then we'll popcorn. What is your professional and or personal life motto that gets you through your career, that gets you through being in this industry? That's one answer. And then 2, we have allies here, right? Some of them are loud and some of them are silent. Tell them, not me, what is your call to action for them? Because we need to be sure that we let them know these are the actions. We don't need your words, we need your actions to help us get, more in the community. And, if you have any personal services, your website, blog, please make sure you mention that so people can reach out to you as well. And I think a lot of people here want to connect with everyone on LinkedIn, and I told them to just search you all's names, so you'll get a whole bunch of LinkedIn notifications. So just so you guys are aware when you get flooded when you're done. But yes, answer those 2 questions for me. What is your personal and or professional motto to get you through? And to the allies, what is your call to action? And I'm actually going to do the popcorn here on this one. So we're going to start with Talya.
So my personal and professional motto is do it scared, do it anyway. I'm, people see me and they always think I'm like this fearless person, and I am usually terrified on the inside, but you won't see me sweat. I'm gonna show up, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna put my poker face on and I'm gonna do what I have to do. Then I may pass out later, but don't let fear be the thing that prevents you from doing the next thing, right? So that's kind of, how I approach that. And to my allies, while I know there are secret allies, show up, you know what I'm saying? Like, just be more, don't secretly clap. If you are sitting in a position where you have the ability to, you see someone is doing the due diligence, they're working, and you have the network access or the potential help them, offer to help them, to mentor, to coach. Minorities struggle with gaining sponsorship, getting the buy-in that we need to go to the next level. We don't want you guys to silently agree with us. We want you to put your money where your mouth is. So just really show up for us in that manner. I think that's where it's most valuable. So that's my tidbit.
I agree. O'Shea.
So, well, I think I gave my motto earlier around the temporary ignorance aspect. But something I do, kind of wholeheartedly believe is like, you have to make like your way in the world, or the world kind of like does whatever with you, right? That is applicable in tech. I've seen people get pushed around in technical roles that they did not want to do, get put on assignments they had no interest in, or even moved to departments that they definitely had no interest in. I know that because we spoke about it, right? And I feel like if you're not willing to stand up for yourself, if you're willing to sacrifice standing up for yourself to satisfy someone else's needs at times, like that's going to be a massive problem, right? I feel like you have to kind of be forceful just with your life, and you have to be forceful with your career. Like the people that I look to, that I guess you could say are, I'm hesitant to say mentors, but people I admire, their accomplishments, kind of their perseverance. Like they're not the type of people that take it laying down. Like they are forceful. They go out and they get what they want, and that's taught me a lot in my 37 years of being on this earth. Right, like you have to go out and be kind of a force to reckon with if you want to change things, in not only your career, just in your life. To the allies, it's super simple, right? It's put us in the room when you're having the conversations about us. that's it, right? Like if you're having a conversation about having more Black people on your board, if you're having more conversation, having more Black people involved in this community event, why is there not a Black person in the room? So the minute you start to have that thought and you're going towards that conversation, the next step is to ensure somebody's in the room.
It really is that simple. Like you can't get more simpler than that, honestly. I really don't see why it's so hard. And so thank you for that, O'Shea. Thank you, Talya, too. Let's go to Isiah.
All right, my turn. So both professionally and in life, constantly keep it simple, stupid. We make shit overly complicated. The world can actually, most problems can be solved. We're not going to run out of problems to solve. I don't know why people think that and they keep making shit complicated. Keep it simple so we can solve problems and move on to the next problem. As far as allies, you also keep it simple, stupid. You're making shit overly complicated. It's like O'Shea said, get us in the damn room. I don't need you to fight my battle for me. First off, here's a suggestion. Black people can do this. Get the hell out of the way. You need us. We know what the hell we're doing. We invented a lot of this shit. Maybe you should let me explain my own ideas. It's not rocket science. Keep it simple, stupid. Get us on the board. We don't want to be the chief diversity officer. I want to be the freaking CTO. I want to be the COO. I should be the CEO because that guy doesn't know what he's doing. As far as the sisters, Shanikqua's way. Guess what? They probably can run the company better than you. Maybe they should be the CEO. It's like, stop making it complicated. Oh, we can't find people that are qualified. We're qualified. You've even told me we're qualified. You've sent me emails saying, thank you for saving our ass. Well, go tell the board that and get me in there. How about that? So that's what allies can do. Keep it simple, stupid. All of us keep it simple, stupid, including me. And that's pretty much all I got.
Nice. We're going to go to B.
Okay, so to recap, the first question was kind of I guess our personal thing to get through, and then the second one had to do with advice for allies or ask or something like that. Okay.
Yes, your call to action and what's your professional and/or personal motto?
Okay, well, I'll pick one, and my motto for this session will be breathe. Just that, to expand it, self-kindness is essential to not just survive, but thrive. And it's essential to help to see the ways that we can thrive together. Not everyone, there are a lot of spaces out there that don't have air for everyone, and including, for example, you. There might not be air for you in that room that you're about to walk into, but you need to make your own air. You need to photosynthesize, and you need to know what the allotment of time is on your counter so that you can get out of there before your air runs out if they don't learn how to share the air. And so that breathing is essential. Always breathe. You don't need permission to breathe. Don't require anybody's approval to breathe. And let's see, the other one, advice for allies. Well, it's related to breathing. I guess it would be like, just recognize opportunities to check your breathing. Does your breathing take the air out of the room for other folks that are present that maybe haven't spoken or are not fully welcome or supported, because there's more than enough air there technically, for everyone. It's not a zero-sum game, and I say this, I'll just highlight this one aspect. When we start thinking about cognitive bias, one of the kind of knee-jerk reactions a lot of people have is defense. We don't want to see things taken away from us. The interesting thing about the math of getting into this, the math of this, is that it really is not a zero-sum game, and we actually gain more together when we give more. And this correction that we stand to facilitate by breathing together actually stands to make sure that we all have more in practical lived terms than ever before in documented history, regardless of what changes might come when it comes to financial standing and those numbers. So yes, I would recommend breathing, you know, in terms of, you know, how we get through, always breathe. And then for allies, yeah, check your breathing. Like, does your breathing depend on somebody else's holding their breath?
I like those analogies. Those are really good, and people don't realize that is definitely awesome. And I like the way you put it. We are going to go to Shanikqua and then Davin.
So I have a lot of mottos, but I think the one that sticks in my head the most, no storm is permanent. There's been a lot of rough patches on this journey, especially with not having a formal education, you know, all the other obstacles that come in the way, but no storm is permanent. I think anybody trying to get into this field, trying to stay here, you can't take every single struggle personally. Not every single struggle is meant to knock you down. Sometimes it builds character. Sometimes it gets you to a place where 15 years down the road, you can tell everybody to kiss your butt and, you know, you can get your job done and you don't want to hear anybody's mouth. To all the allies, and I told this to my boss actually at KPMG before I left. She asked after this whole, you know, Black Lives Matter movement, what can I do for you? And I told her, stop making me a victim. Like, I've literally been Black my entire career. So is my mom, my dad. Everybody has worked as a Black person. We all understand how unfair it is. Don't make me a victim. Don't feel sorry for me. Don't tell me, oh my gosh, I feel so bad, because this has been the case. Like, what you can do though, and like, I think Isiah said it, and O'Shea too, empower. Like, help me to get into those rooms that, you know, I'm not invited to. Help me get on those invites to the meetings when they talk about promotions and next level for the company. Like, include me, be that actual ally, you know, that will put the action where your words are and build those spaces. If I'm worth it, you know, if I've proven myself, don't stop me. And anybody that you see trying to stop me, just, you know, be that voice. So yeah, no storm is permanent, and don't make me a victim. That's it.
Nice, thank you. And Davin.
Okay, so the one I go by the most is always bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Always bet on yourself, because and this goes for friends and foes alike. Not everybody is going to see your vision, right? This field, this career, this color on our skin, it's not a cakewalk. So there's going to be difficult times, but still waters never made a skilled sailor. So you got to bet on yourself, because sometimes you'll be the only one who's rooting for you. So always bet on yourself and do the work. Let your work speak for itself, because if they don't appreciate you now, someone else will. Now, to the allies, someone eloquently said during DEF CON that don't be performative, and let's see where you are a few months from now. And that was in response to an event that we had back in June called Share the Mic in Cyber. It was a great event. It was very, I guess you could say it was emotional. It was very powerful. But I guess the verdict is still out to see whether or not it was factual or if it was performative. I'd like to think everybody who took part in that was very genuine, but I'm thinking about the overall support. So like O'Shea said, like B, like Isiah, like Shanikqua, like Talya, everybody here, let us in the room. Give us a seat at the table. I said in one of my talks the other day, you probably have a multi-million-dollar company and you're losing out on being a multi-billion-dollar company because you have your own biases, because you can't understand that someone who came from the different side of the tracks, who had a different upbringing than you, may not have went to college, but they can probably help you succeed. So to the allies, don't talk about it, be about it. Furthermore, pay attention to what's going on right now. You didn't see this 10, 15 years ago. And if you did, it was really quiet. We kind of stuck to ourselves. It was almost like, and I don't want to be super racial, but damn it, it's a panel for black folk. It's almost like the slaves who could read. They didn't want Master to know that we could read, right? Because they were scared to be punished. Now we out here and we're saying we know our shit. So pay attention to what's going on, because like we all have been saying, either let us at the table or we're going to build our own. And you're going to see how it feel when the tables are turned literally and you can't get your ass in a seat. So if you about it, be about it. Don't be scared of what everybody else say. And again, back to always bet on yourself. If you're an ally, be an ally and don't be scared of what your coworkers are saying. Right? My sister, get down or lay down. Don't sit there and be like, I get messages in the comments that's like, I really support what you do. Great. Why are you telling me in my DMs? Share that shit on Twitter. Share that shit on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Don't tell me in my emails or my DMs that you think I'm great. God damn it, I know I'm great. Tell these motherfuckers that I'm great. And if you don't, I know I'm great because I bet on myself. And like I said, when that table get built, don't ask for a seat. Mic drop, I'm done.
Davin was about to go to church on a Saturday night up in here. But I laughed because what he actually said about someone mentioning something, that someone was actually me. And it's true. We've seen people changing, I think Leron just mentioned it, changing Maine to something else, or, the terms used in coding and stuff like that to different language. But that's not what we asked for. That's not what we asked for, right? We asked for you to bring us into those rooms. We asked for you to give us the chance. We asked for you to check your bias. And so I really want to see, and I stand by it. Talk to me in 5 months. It's August. You got the rest of Q3 and you got the remainder of Q4 to make a decision and stick with it. I promise you, I always say this, nothing will take away from you helping somebody else. Nothing. Nobody can take away your language. Nobody can take away your knowledge. Nobody can take away anything from you that you know that you've worked very hard for, unless it's some, life-changing event that's outside of your control. But what it is that you can control, you can do something about. So for the remainder of the year, if you're an ally, a non-Black ally specifically, take some time to get to know somebody else. Somebody that don't look like you, that don't work in the same industry or section as you. Get to know them genuinely. And on top of that, don't expect them to have a response to you, because some people are dealing with stuff at different stages, right? So if you reach out to somebody and they don't respond, don't take it personal. It's not about you. Don't make it about you. It's not about you. It's about you going outside yourself, being uncomfortable, and really getting to understand where it is that we come from, right? So I stand by it. Talk to me in about 5 months. I'll give you till January 2020. I won't even make you do a whole year, right? I'll give you till January 2021. I'm sorry, because we're in 2020 right now. And 2021. Do something outside of yourself for someone else with no strings attached. And I can guarantee you as a person that you will feel completely different and realize there's nothing that we can take away from you that you know, and there's nothing you can take away from us that we know. So really think about that, really consider it. We don't want the performative actions. You can reach out to the panelists, and I know I'm probably speaking for, but they're pretty open, and I've talked to all of them beforehand, and we've had conversations. So reach out to them. They've dropped their LinkedIn, they've dropped their Instagram, they've dropped their Twitter. Reach out to them. We are here, they are here. I'm still new in the industry, and this is why I had this event, because I think that it's very important that those who have years and years of experience reach back out to the people who are just trying to enter into the field, or, you know, are stuck in those, you know, they're in their early career. It's important that they have these conversations and realize that there are people there that look like them. And so I want to say thank you to all of the panelists for attending. I want to say thank you to all the attendees for attending and sharing your knowledge. You know, I hope that you take away a lot of information and you learn, and you also grow your network, right? Because this is about making sure we, you know, at some point, everybody's going to die, and you can't take the technology with you. So why not train somebody in your place? Teach them. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything to you.
Hey, real quick. I don't care about your white list or your black list. I want to know how many blacks you got on your list for leadership.
Right. Correct.
Amen. Amen.
You don't care about that.
16.
I told you to do that anyway. That's what I heard about that.
Right.
Like in the ICS community, we got old protocols like Modbus and Master Slave. I was like, I don't give a damn about that. That's not hurting me. It ain't shooting me. It ain't stopping me from getting a promotion. Yep. Who cares?
Yep.
Who asked them that?
So we're going to end it here. If you all have any questions, be sure to reach out to the panelists, myself, and I thank everyone for attending. And everybody have a very, very good Saturday evening, and we will be talking soon.